I've got a really cool guitar solo formula that I want to share with you in this video, and I think this is really going to help you kind of put the pieces together as you're creating your own guitar solos. So real quick, just a couple of days ago, I gave you guys a metal rhythm guitar lesson based on alternate picking. Now, if you didn't see that yet, definitely go check that out. Actually, it's the video right before this one, so watch that after you watch this. So what happened next after I published that video, I'm like, hey, you know, this would be a cool rhythm part to play some guitar solos to. Let me see what I can come up with. So actually, here it is. Here's what we're going to go over in this video. So there are three parts to this guitar solo, and I want us to focus on each part one at a time here. So we're going to do that. I'll try to replicate some of this stuff live, like right here. I'll let you hear what you heard earlier, but I'll try to play it again. One of my faults, by the way, is I oftentimes forget my guitar solos. I'll write something, I'll record it, and I'm like, okay, how exactly did I play that? Again, that's a fault of mine that I have to live with. I'm trying to get better at that, but I'll do the best I can. More so though, I just want to explain the concepts and just give you some insight that may help you in writing your guitar solos, because that's really more of what this video is all about, helping you. Now at the end of the video, I'll explain my old approach to guitar solos, and I'll kind of show you why that was not the best approach and why this one may be a little bit better. Alright, so we're starting out with a very simple melody. I mean, we're just going up the neck here. I won't be throwing tabs up, by the way, guys, because I don't remember the solo note for note, but just kind of follow along with me here. And I'm not really too concerned about you learning the solo as much as I am about you just walking away with some good concepts to formulate your own solos with. So that's what this is all about. So again, real simple little lick here. Again, we're just walking up. All right, so one of the techniques that I want to share with you here is, as I'm starting out, and I'll tell you what frets I'm on here, what I'm doing, and this is kind of one of those little nuances, one of those little things you can throw in your guitar solos instead of just playing these notes here. Okay, that's fine, but this sounds so much cooler. See how I made that little slide happen there? So what I'm doing here is I'm playing on the G string. I'm on the 7th fret. We're on 7 and 9 here, right? So I'm gonna pick that 7th fret note. Then I'm gonna play the 9th fret. But then I'm gonna go back to the 7th and slide to the 9th. So it's just one of those little things that you can throw into your guitar solos. It just kind of sweetens it up a little bit. One thing you'll notice, sometimes you'll see me do this, and I think I've captured this in other videos. Whenever I'm doing a bend and I want it to ring out, I'll use these two fingers, my first finger, my thumb, to mute the surrounding strings around that note so that I don't get any string noise. So that's just one of my little personal ways of eliminating some of the string noise that you get when you're letting those notes ring out. After that melodic piece there, I go into something, I guess you can consider it shred or a little bit more technical or whatever you want to call it. I do a little finger tapping thing. What I'm going to play for you here, let me let you hear it in the video first real quick. So just listen to this one little piece. Now, I'm not going to be able to replicate that because I don't know all the frets that I play, but it was something like this here. And all I'm doing here is just a quick, again, I don't remember all the frets. I would have to sit down and really like sit down and hear what I played and slow it down and all that good stuff. But again, the concept is what I want you guys to get. You know, we start out with a melody, then I lead you into this really just quick little fast finger tapping thing here. And for the tapping, for the purposes of the tapping little lick here, what I'm doing is I'm doing a little tap on the E string. I'm on frets 17, 20, and then my tapping finger is going to be on the 22nd fret. Then I'm kind of carrying that over, that same pattern over to the B string. One extra note I'm playing in there though is going to be that 18th fret. It's something like that, and then I move over to the G string, which I'm on the what is that? The 17, 19, and 21. So I start with a little melody there, then I go to that little tapping, then I end with a melody. And when I'm doing a vibrato or a bend, I like to do some different bends. I mean, everyone does the vibrato a little differently. I had someone yell at me on Facebook, I think, a while back. You're doing the vibrato wrong. Well, it might be wrong to you, but it's the way I do it. So, you know, go do whatever, right? But anyway, so sometimes I'll hold it out a little bit and I'll bend it and I'll keep that bend going a little bit with a little bit of vibrato. So let me just kind of replicate what I did just now. The purpose of me showing you that part right there is just to kind of like, just to stir those creative juices when you're doing bends. Like, you don't always have to do the same type of bend or same type of vibrato, or you don't always have to do it the way that you've been taught or the way that you've seen someone else do it. You know, you can kind of implement your own style into that, and with bends and vibrato, that's a perfect opportunity to throw your own style. Play what you're feeling when you're bending those strings. You'll feel it, man. It'll be in your gut. All right, so let's move on to the second part of the solo. All right, so this is all melody. There's nothing fast going on here. There's no shredding. There's nothing fancy going on here. It is just straight up melody. But the cool thing about this part, and I love to do guitar solos like that, or I love to put this this little method into my guitar solos. What I'm doing is I'm harmonizing the main guitar with another guitar. So real quick, I'll play that first little part here, the first little melody for you. And it's really simple. Something like that. I might have missed a note there, but the idea behind that is real smooth, it's very fluid, and it's just very simple. But what I'm doing, I recorded that guitar, okay? Then I came back and I recorded a second guitar that harmonized with that. So this little part right here, man, this little lead guitar lesson's got so many little mini lessons within. When you want to harmonize, you can do one or two things. You can use a pitch shifter effect. Nothing wrong with that. That sounds cool. A lot of guitar players do, and it sounds really nice, especially if you're playing live and you don't have a second guitarist, okay? But what I like to do on the majority, I'd say on 95% of the music I release that has dual guitar like that, I've actually played the second guitar. You know, I have used a pitch shift before, and again, nothing wrong with that. But the cooler way to do this, or I shouldn't say cooler way, but another way to do this is, again, playing that second guitar. So Little recording tip real quick. What I do is I'll record, these are two separate lead guitar tracks, by the way. I'll lay down the first lead guitar track, what you just heard, then I'll hard pan that all the way to the left. Then I'll go back on another track and I'll record the guitar, the harmonizing guitar part, and I'll pan that all the way over to the right, which you guys know I do the same for my rhythm guitar tracks, all of them. My main solo guitars are up the middle, but whenever I'm harmonizing a guitar, a lead guitar, I'm gonna pan them like I do my rhythms, and that gives it that true, like just lively stereo effect. But what I did, and what I wanna show you is I came back and recorded a second guitar track. So those first two notes, G string, 12th fret and 9th fret. So how I like to do my harmonies, and there are multiple ways to do harmonies. There's no right or wrong way. There's just the way that sounds good and the way that might not sound so good. So do the way that sounds good. And you'll figure that out on your own. But what I do is I'll just count up to that third note and I'll play that third note harmony. That's just kind of my preference. So I'm on my 12th fret G string. 3 notes right within that key is going to be 1, 2, 3. Okay, now this note here on the 9th fret, what's my third note there? 1, 2, 3, 12th fret. So whereas I'm on the 12th fret for the first solo, and just hang with me here if that didn't make sense, I'm going 12, 9. My harmonizing notes are going to be, what is that, 16, 12. Okay, so listen to this. Now listen to this. And when you combine those together, you get that really cool harmony sound. So that, again, is just another method that you can use for your guitar solos, especially if you're recording something, you know. You've got your main guitar solo track. You're not going to use that for this. You're gonna create 2 more tracks for the harmonizing guitar solos. You'll pan the main one left and pan the harmonizing one right, or however you want to pan it, doesn't matter. But that's just a little recording tip and guitar solo tip there for you. So that was another melodic piece of this guitar solo. Let's move on to the third and final part. Now this last piece of the solo actually has 3 pieces within, in my opinion, and I'll kind of break this down for you. So we kind of start out with a little melody there, you know, it's almost like we're singing something. Then I go right into this just kind of a typical sweep picking pattern. And, you know, if I were going to release this solo like on a professional album or something like that, I'd probably change that part of it. Because there's some things I don't like about it. But anyway, I'll share kind of what I'm doing here for this first little part of the third section here. Very melodic, I mean just very fluid there. And while I'm here, while I'm around that area, I just do just a typical sweep pattern. Okay, just a full-on, just a basic sweep arpeggio. I think that's an A minor sweep arpeggio or whatever. So that part I would probably change because it's too typical, right? I would probably do something different. I end with a little melodic pattern there, something like this. So far for the lead patterns, I've been using my bridge pickup, but for this part, I actually switched over to the neck pickup. When I'm playing, when I'm doing sweep arpeggios and stuff like that, I like to have that neck pickup. It just makes it a little bit smoother. But as I'm here, I'm gonna switch my pickup and then go into that second section of this third section of the solo, second piece of the third section. Now I'm confusing myself. After that, we move on to this next part right here. I'm gonna play the actual solo part because this is This is a really cool technique, and this just sounds like so classic metal-y. Okay, so listen to this part again. Tactic I'm using here, and this kind of worked out really nicely because of the key that we're playing in the key of A minor here. The tactic is using that open string. We've got that palm mute going on with the alternate picking, and we're using the open string. It's got that kind of that Wasted Years, that Iron Maiden's Wasted Years kind of vibe to it, which I really love because it just, I don't know, it's almost like where lead meets rhythm guitar. And it just gives it this substance, this character that just is really cool in my opinion. So anyway, I've got the G string. We're playing that open, but we're also fretting some notes. So let me just call out the frets what I'm playing here, so you can just try this little part here. I'm fretting the 7th fret, 5th fret, 4th fret, then back to the 5th fret. Okay. In between that is when I'm alternate picking that open string. So you could just sit there and just play that over and over and just kind of get it down. Don't worry about the speed right now, but just get used to that tactic, because that's something that you can throw into your solos. Now, it won't always work in every solo. Okay, it depends on what key you're playing in. If we're playing in the key of E minor, we could still use that G string, that open G string, okay? But we'd have to fret some other notes. There's one note here that we fret in the A minor key that wouldn't work obviously in E minor. So just kind of know that before you go into this. All right, so then we move on to the final part of the solo where we end it here, and we do some little fast stuff here, but we keep the melody alive. But let's play that part one more time for you. So we kept the pattern somewhat fluid. We kept the vibe the same. You know, we're just kind of taking the listener to another place now after that cool little open string thing that we did. And then I go into this little finger tapping thing, and actually it's the same pattern that I played in the beginning part, the first part of the guitar solo. I just played it at a different place on the fretboard. Now this is a really cool strategy. When you get something down somewhere, at any one spot on the fretboard, I want you to replicate that in another spot, right? And that way you can play it in multiple places. And why this is cool is because you're playing the same pattern, but it doesn't sound the same. It sounds different. It's like, okay, well that was similar, but it's over here instead. So it gives the song a little bit more diversity, and it kind of opens you up to different places on the fretboard as you're playing those patterns. So the first pattern, the first little finger tapping pattern, you'll remember, was down here somewhere. Now we're just a little further up. And all I'm doing here, I'm finger tapping. I'll call out the frets real quick. The E string, frets 12, 15, 17. Then we go over to the B string, same thing, but we're also going to integrate that 13th fret. And then G string, we're on 12, 14, and 16. So that's pretty much it. Again, it's the same pattern we played earlier, but we were down in this area. Now we're up here. And then I just kind of ended on kind of a bluesy style bend there, if you can call it that. And I was going to continue playing the solo more. Like when I first played the guitar solo, I was thinking, okay, this is the last rhythm part. This is where the rhythm part ends. But then it kept going. I'm like, screw it, I'll just end it here anyway. So that was kind of a fluke on my part. Now I want to share with you guys my old guitar solo formula, which is quite laughable. But just a quick recap, guys. So my Jason's Today guitar solo formula, you'll see that it's really simple. I just try to mix in the melodies and just those melody lines that are going to be memorable, that people are going to remember, like, okay, that's how that goes. That's pretty cool. I mix that in with some fast playing as well, if you want to call it shred, whatever. You know, it seems like today we have just a lot of extremes. I mean, people are way over here or way over there, and with guitar playing, you know, you've got a group of folks that all they do is shred. It seems like that's all they can play. And it's great, it takes a lot of talent to do that, but it does get boring after a while. That's just my personal opinion. But then you've got this other extreme camps like, no, shred is just all boring and you just need to play melodies and play slow all the time. Here's my thing. I think there's plenty of room for both to cross over. And I'm not going to tell you that your goal should be my goal, that my guitar solo formula is for you or for anybody. This is just my personal take on it. But what I would say, what I would challenge you to do is just kind of think outside of those extremes, right? You may not be a shredder, you may not want to be a shredder, but what I would challenge you, if that's the case, is to try to get up speed on some technical playing, right? So you've got those solos with a lot of feeling to them, but you can throw some other stuff in there too that kind of throws the listener off guard, like, oh, I didn't see that coming, or I didn't hear that coming. It's all about captivating the listener. That's what it's all about. Now, if you're a full-on shred guitarist and you're just playing fast, you've just nailed the sweep arpeggios, but then that's all you're doing, my challenge to you would be to try to play slower sometimes. You might be surprised that you have a tough time with that, okay? But try to integrate some melodies. Doesn't mean you have to do away with shred. I'm not saying that, right? Just like if you play slower, it doesn't mean you have to do away with that. What I'm saying is just broaden your horizon there, okay? And just try to integrate different styles and just different methods in there. Before we end the video, and we're almost done here, my old guitar formula, guys, when I first started playing guitar, and I've probably told this story before, you know, I got really fast. Like within my first year of playing, I sucked at a lot of things. I'm just gonna be honest with you guys. I sucked at everything, but guitar was something that just really came natural to me. So I got, you know, decently good pretty fast within that first year. And I was already playing some somewhat fast guitar solos, but then fast forward another year or two after that, I joined my first band and started playing more and that sort of thing. And I was known just as, I don't think we called people shred guitar players back then. This is back in like the early 90s, but I was known as a fast guitar player. It got to the point though where buddies would say, hey dude, we know you can do that, you can play fast solos, that's great, but what else can you do? And I had to step back and think about that. I'm like, and I went back and listened, and I wish maybe someday I'll try to capture some of my old material and share it with you guys. I'm gonna work on that. But anyway, I'd go back and listen to some old recordings on, we had these things called cassettes back then, and it just is like, man, every solo just sounded the same because that's all I did was shred. And you guys can probably think of many guitar players that, you know, every time they play a fast solo, it's like, okay, didn't you play that same pattern in 10 other songs? And it may not be the same pattern, but it sounds like it because it's just overdone. So anyway, that was my approach. And I'm not saying I was I wasn't some, you know, virtuoso guitarist. I'm not saying I was up there with the Malmsteens and all these other guys that can truly shred. I'm not saying I was at that level. I wasn't, but I could play fast in my own right. But that's all I did. So that was my approach. It was simple. I'm just going to play as many notes as I possibly can throughout my entire solo part there. But it got old real fast. So that was my old approach. And I guess as you get older, I don't want to say I've matured because that's probably not the right term, but as you progress, as you play more music, you know, you learn things about yourself and you learn things, you start learning new things about your instrument, and even your experiences in life kind of takes you down different paths. And you know, I'm happy to say that I'm in the spot that I'm in right now. Not necessarily this particular chair, because as you can see, it's seen its better days. I'm gonna be getting a new studio chair, by the way. I think I shared that in my what's wrong with my current studio setup, which I'm working on that too. Those of you who saw that video, I'll put that video up here because it's pretty interesting. Anyway, so I'm very happy where I'm at musically now and how I've kind of been able to formulate the guitar solos. I don't know, they just make more sense to me, and I think they might be more captivating to music lovers out there that aren't just guitar players. You know, it's a big thing. You gotta think about this as you're writing music. Are you trying to write the most complicated riffs and most complicated solos that only other guitar players are gonna appreciate? It's a small audience. And there's nothing wrong with that if that's your audience, if that's what you intend to do. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But if you're doing that, but you're intending to reach a larger audience of maybe, you know, metalheads or rock and rollers or just anybody who just wants to hear good music, but they're not a guitar player, and maybe they don't care about the technicalities and all that stuff, they just want to hear good music. Which one is your audience? Maybe you want to do a little bit of both, and that's fine, but again, it's just things to think about as you're playing and as you're writing. So Guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you don't have my free practice guide, I meant to mention this earlier, be sure to get my free guitar practice guide called Metal Riffs and Licks. There's a link in the description of this YouTube video here, so grab a copy of that. You'll also see a pitch for my new course called Metal Riff Master. That'll be in there as well. So check those out. Those links are in the description. But yeah, leave me any questions, guys, that you have in the comments here. We always have great conversations down there, man. It's awesome to see some of your comments and, you know, some of your challenges and things that you're going through as a musician and guitar player, and how these videos helped you, which I hope this does. That's the whole purpose of putting these videos out there for you guys. So guys, thank you so much for supporting my channel. Like it, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you next time. Until then, keep it metal.